What you're looking at here is the faces of generals. The stoic look you see in their face is because on the other side of this picture, there are two men. There's the Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, who just finished telling them that we're going to throw away the rules of engagement that we signed on to the Geneva Convention for Rules of Engagement. This is how we treat other people we're opposing. And he said, we're not going to do that. We're going to be barbaric. We're going to shave all our beards, especially if you're black and you're maybe an Islamic person and you don't shave your beard for religion reasons, or you don't shave your beard because it causes abrasions or lesions or causes something, irritations because of your natural state of your hair as it grows out of your head. We don't want that. He's telling them that. And then on the other side is Donald Trump, who's yelling at them for the fact that they haven't clapped. But why should we clap when you're telling us essentially what he said and what Donald Trump said during that event? And I'll play for you now.
Last month, I signed an executive order to provide training for quick reaction force that can help quell civil disturbances. And this is going to be a big thing for the people in this room because it's the enemy from within, and we have to handle it before it gets out of control. It won't get out of control once you're involved at all.
What he was saying essentially is that he's calling, when he says the enemy within, he's talking about me. He's talking about you if you're watching this. He's talking about anybody who is liberal, Democrat, who did not vote for him in this culture war. He's telling them they need to practice. He wants them to abandon their oath to the Constitution, abandon their oath to office and to valor and to service and to defend the homeland, which includes the residents and citizens of the United States against enemies abroad and within. Most of the enemies are from abroad. Every once in a while, we have sleeper cells that come in, and so they're embedded within. But they're, by all means, not the United States residents. Their only crime in Donald Trump's book is not liking him or voting against him. That doesn't make us the enemy. That doesn't make us target for the military. And that's what he's trying to do, is asking the top brass. Because what happens is, when Donald Trump has gone to see the cadets or seen like military graduates at West Point or in the Naval Academy, some of them hoop and holler. They're young, they're excited, and he feels like, okay, I got them. Pete Hegseth, me like, okay, I got them. So this meeting was not a test. I know some people say it was a loyalty test. It was more of an assessment for Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth to see whether or not the military is on board with their new plan of attack, of attacking fellow residents and citizens, United States citizens. And the look on these men's faces was like, hell no. That's not what we do. We serve. We have been here through several presidents. This is our stature. You have not given us anything to laugh about. There's nothing funny about telling them or asking them to abandon their oath of office. And that's why they're looking like that. They're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Who enemy within, who are you talking about? Are you talking about the grandma that the ICE has been battling? These people, these folks are just minding their business. These children, these students, the superintendent who's been taking care of our kids. Who are you talking about? You talking about the guy who delivers our groceries? That's what you call the enemy within. You're talking about the bloggers or the left wing people like me who just telling people their rights, or AOC members of Congress that are educating their constituents on their rights. And is that who you're calling the enemy within, for doing nothing but just existing, living, helping, supporting other people? For that you want us to go? Yeah. So that meeting was essentially an assessment. It wasn't a test, because a lot of people say it was a loyalty test. It was an assessment to extent Donald Trump wanted to see if the military was on his side, because any dictator, authoritarian needs the military. He has his sycophants. He has, like I said, 22% of the MAGA and dwindling voted for him, and 32% of the electorate, meaning the majority of people, most of the people don't like him. The people in the military, a lot of folks do not like him. The people in the civilian, of the 4 million, the people, and a little bit less now that they've purged a lot of them working in the federal government, most of them don't like him. So he's ruling and reigning terror over people. So now that he knows, I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure whether or not he's told. He doesn't have the intellectual capacity or interest to know what's going on, whether it's Stephen Miller and those guys just telling the lies. The first time I realized that they lied to him is when the Supreme Court ruled 9-0 that they must bring Kilma Abednego Garcia back. Donald Trump, when it was asked in the Air Force One or something about that. He said, I thought we won. They told me we won. So he didn't have the intellectual curiosity to figure it out himself. They told him that. So it's possible that they just tell him whatever he wants to hear. That's why when reporters ask him about different things, strikes or things, he seems to be like clueless. It's either he doesn't remember because he's cognitive decline and suffering from dementia, or they just didn't tell him. He obviously does not care. So yeah, every accusation is a confession, because they used to say that about Joe Biden, that he doesn't know what's going on and these other people puppeteering it. And that's what's going on. Stephen Miller, who's unelected, he was not confirmed by, he's a deputy chief of staff, not confirmed by Senate whatsoever, running things, running the Department of Homeland Security, running the State Department, running the Department of Justice. He's doing every single thing going around. He's like a self-hating little mongrel, just crazy. And then you have the infighting. Laura Loomer fighting Marjorie Taylor Greene fighting for the release of the Epstein files, filed against Israel, Donald Trump fighting against. All he's doing, Donald Trump, is shaking down universities, law firms, and private entities to give them shares of his companies, grifting on behalf of his friends, giving his friends tax breaks, asking his attorney general to shake down anyone who held him accountable in between these terms, and golfing and grifting. J.D. Vance are taking vacations. They're doing absolutely nothing. And it's all due to the Republicans in Congress right now. They shut down the government because they don't want to give people, they say they're Christian nationals. They don't want refugees and asylum seekers who we've invited to come here to have the benefits of temporary health care or food while they're here, while they get themselves on their feet, after we've already invited them to come in pursuant to our laws. They're saying it's for illegals. First of all, no human is illegal, but that's absolutely false, and they know it. So shutting down the government for that, that's their sticking point. It's minor. It's not, they're not for you. They're hurting you. That big beautiful bill cuts Medicare, Medicaid, and cuts benefits for people. Meals on Wheels. They're trying to cut back shutting down rural hospitals. Donald Trump's tariffs is causing farmers to go out of business. Chinese are buying all their beef from Australia. Plants are shutting down. Companies are shutting down. The unemployment rate is up. Consumer confidence is low. Donald Trump is essentially tanked the economy in 8 short months, getting us involved in more conflicts around the world, threatening peaceful nations that had nothing to do with this. Greenland, Panama, and Venezuela, just going around changing the Department of Defense to Department of War, violating people's rights left and right, trying to get revoking licenses and newspapers and banning press, just trying to silence dissent. And that's what he asked these militaries to do. Help me silence dissent because I'm weak. Essentially saying that I am weak, I'm unable, incapable of listening to someone who has an opposing viewpoint, and because of that, I just don't want to hear it all. They're fragile, they're barbaric. They want the military to join them in their primitive, backwards, nihilistic, hateful, vengeful, cruel agenda going on, attacking on a primal basis. When Pete Hegseth stands there and says, like, we're going to throw away rules of engagement, he's like, be a barbarian just like I am, you frat boy. And to lecture those veterans, military servicemen on discipline, when you don't have the discipline to not abuse alcohol, to not allegedly abuse your wife, to not cheat on them, several wives, to not put military plans on Signalgate. Like, you have no discipline whatsoever. It's like the pot calling the kettle black. And also the nerve to use a bunch of the speech talking about anti-wokeness, anti-DI. Meanwhile, you're sitting there having skated on the thinnest of margin of any defense secretary in the past, 100 years. The bipartisan group of senators voted against you. Your resume is like this. The person who you replaced, Lord Austin's resume, is 3 pages long, which goes to the saying that we have to be 2 or 3 times as qualified to get the same position as the mediocre Pete Hegseth. And he's proven that. And the attack on DI is ridiculous when Donald Trump's entire cabinet is full of inept, unqualified sycophants making a hot mess of things. The Department of Justice, I'm JJ Legal, I'm in the dockets. They don't have any more. They hemorrhage all their good lawyers. And Donald Trump has asked them to purge anyone who did something like kneel, something as small as kneel. But meanwhile, he's pardoning January 6ers and releasing all sorts of rapists and all sorts of violent criminals, giving them pardons. Once you have the money, they're pardoning. They're releasing all sorts of criminals to the ground, have the nerves to fire FBI people for kneeling in solidarity and acknowledgement. And they said they were doing that just to appease the situation and just calm situations down, but they don't care. because they're nihilistic, they're cruel, they're petty, they're soft, they're like, they emotionally unintelligent. Pussies. Soft. Talking about grooming. The guy who has a freaking, he installed a makeup trailer. A freaking joke. And that's why they didn't laugh. There was nothing to laugh at. But inside they could probably be laughing like, what the hell? Are they serious? A joke. Yeah. Anyway, JJ Legal, each one teach one. Hope that was helpful for you. Let's discuss below.